Hello again, this is Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics for the 22nd of August 2950 or 2020 if you're stuck in the past. This presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics for the members of the Aurora Republic, the premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting for the first time, let me start by saying welcome. Glad to have you with us, and I'd love to hear more from you if you are interested in hearing more from us. We are a lawful good organization focused on roleplay, exploration, and social interaction, and are currently active in recruiting on Spectrum and Discord. First, quick couple of announcements. Two new citizens, folks who've either joined us just recently or maybe a short while ago, and then have gone and flown with us once during an org mission, so have gotten rid of their immigrant tag and are now full citizens. So everybody say congratulations to J.M. Parker 1980 and Millennium 1. So if you see them, do please give them a pat on the back and a welcome. Rules of engagement. We are streaming this video on Twitch, so there is a small broadcast delay between when I say something before it comes out over the interwebs there. If you're also listening in Discord, I would suggest probably deafening Discord and listening on Twitch, so that voices synchronize with slides and videos tonight. And however, if you do have a question, just please unmute yourself in Twitch. You can ask it in real time, and we'll answer it in real time. Tonight, we're going to be discussing turrets. Actually, there was some updates and improvements made to turret gameplay in 3.10, so I figured it's probably high time to talk about some turret operations and how to run those controls. I had a guest help me, or a fellow org mate help me out with this, so everybody also please say thank you to BratFarrar for helping out and teaching this old dog some new tricks when it came to turrets. So basically, we're just going to go over the controls so that people know how to work these things with the new what's new in the zoo, and then we will go into the verse and we'll go practice some of this stuff and go take pot shots with turrets. So first off, we'll just go through what the default keybinds and controls are. Of course, everything is configurable in Star Citizen, so you can Burger King Jet, you can have it your way. So of course you can find these, of course, on the options menu by hitting escape. Going over to the fifth tab across the top that says keybinds there. Make sure you got keyboard and mouse on the lower right for these default keybinds, and hit advanced controls customization. If you go for controller or joystick HOTAS, then the turret control defaults are all blank, because they are not mapped to anything until you decide to map them there. So the defaults are mouse controls and keyboard controls. So this is once you do that, once you hit that advanced controls customization down in the lower left corner, then it pops up this one. Actually, it'll pull up a whole list that'll have the plus minus tree. Then you'll need to hit the plus beside turrets to open that up, and this is what you'll see. It's pretty straightforward, and these things are pretty self-explanatory, but there's just a couple that I will hit some notes on things you need to keep in mind because of some naming conventions and stuff like that are not consistent throughout, not only between the menu here and what's shown in like the HUD in the game, but also even within the menu itself. So I'm going to just hit a few of the high points. Obviously, X-axis and Y-axis with your mouse is the default control for controlling a turret for its pitch and yaw. If you default ESP, which is enhanced stick precision, it's basically an aim assist. That is defaults on. If you want to turn it off for some reason, I don't know why you would, you can hit E echo on the keyboard to turn that off. And then the mouse movement mode, which is a personal preference for how you may want the mouse to move what behavior you want the mouse to move the turret. And again, in the demo video we have here in a minute, Brat helps demonstrate all of this stuff, but it defaults to the VJoy. So your mouse, there will be a gun cross in the center of the screen There will be a little dot that kind of represents where your mouse is in relative to that. And so now your mouse acts like a joystick. If you move your mouse away from that center position, say off to the right, then the turret will start slewing in that direction as if you had moved a joystick that amount of displacement off to the right. The farther you move your mouse away from that center position, then the faster the turret will slew in that direction, just as if you had pulled the joystick, deflected the joystick more in that direction. So in other words, your mouse is basically, you're going to control your turret with your mouse constantly around a center position. You're going to move it away in the direction you want to move, and you're going to move it back to the center position to zeroize it and stabilize the turret's aim right where you're at. The reason that they defaulted for this is because was to kind of keep your mouse on your mouse pad, as it were. If you don't like this, then you can always hit Q for Quebec, and it'll switch to the old FPS style, where it is a direct 1-for-1 between your mouse and the movement of the turret on the screen. The problem is these turrets can turn 360 degrees around in the longitudinal, lateral axes. So it can basically spin a 360, which means you could end up having to do the, push your mouse all the way to the edge of your mouse pad, pick your mouse up, come back, and if you wanted to keep slewing in that same direction, you could end up having to holding on to your mouse and having to keep picking it up from one side of the mouse pad, putting it down on the other side of the mouse pad, sliding it all the way across, pick it up again, drop it. You could end up in that. So that's kind of why they went to the VJoy, which I think is a good, probably the better way to do things. However, they do give you that option to go to the FPS style if that absolutely is the way you like it. One of those nomenclature changes or weirdnesses that I mentioned is here on the options menu. It says FPS style for that second mode that I told you. However, in the jet or in the turret, if you hit Q to come out of VJoy mode, it's called relative mode is what shows up down in the lower right of the turret HUD. So here on this menu, they call it FPS style. However, on the turret HUD, it'll say relative mode when you're in that mode. When you click over to VJoy, it doesn't say anything, basically. But you'll have the little dotted line string that'll go from where your mouse presently is back to that center. So you can almost, when you're using the VJoy mode, as you move your mouse away from the center position, you'll see a line, a dotted line that'll go out to it. You can almost think of it like a string or a rubber band that you're basically pulling that gun cross around the screen on. If you want to recenter the turret, and by recenter it means turn it back to straight forward down the longitudinal axis of the vehicle towards the nose, and recenter from any elevation down to level. That's what it means by recenter. Okay, whoops, where's my next? There we go. Okay, so the gyro stabilization, they have two modes there. It defaults to the gyro mode being turned on. When the gyro mode is turned on, then your turret is space stabilized. Your gun cross is space stabilized, which means that as the pilot in the craft that you're in maneuvers, the turret counter rotates to it to hold your gun cross right where you have it pointed without it moving. And we have a demonstration of this here in the video. If you hit G, you can turn that off, which will now make the turret vehicle stabilized, which means the pilot's movements will move your aiming solution at the same time. So if he turns the spacecraft 90 degrees to the right, your turret's going to go 90 degrees to the right with the vehicle. It will stay in the same position relative to the vehicle, but as far as your gun cross goes, sweeping out across the stars because the pilot moved the foundation you're sitting on. They gave because of this VJoy mode, they gave you the ability to adjust how fast how fast your turret can slew. by use of a speed limiter, just like you've got for the piloting any of the other vehicles, spacecraft or ground. And you can even just turn that on and off with the left shift. Then you can control it if you have it enabled, and it defaults to being disabled. I think it defaults to being disabled. You can left shift to enable it. Yeah. Thanks, Brat. And the speed limiter can then, when you enable it, a green line will show up down in a sort of a horizontal bar down near the bottom of the HUD that'll let you know kind of how much speed you have, where that limiter is at as far as as a speed scale. And then you can control that either by wheeling the mouse wheel, or if you're using a mouse that doesn't have a mouse wheel, or you got your finger down on the trigger and you don't feel like you can come up off of it to adjust the mouse wheel, you can also do it with the keyboard, sort of digitally with Whiskey and Sierra with W and S, just like that. V also changes the fire mode, so most turrets have 2 guns or more. Hurricane's turret's got 4. There's some other turrets on the big capital ships that got 4. The Hammerhead has 4. So the default is for them to be in a synced mode or a combined mode, where the guns on both sides fire simultaneously at the same time, versus staggered mode, which is they alternate and go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, which gets you basically twice the rapidity of fire, but it's not actually getting you any more. You still have the same number of guns firing. They're just firing in an alternating mode of left and right. All right, so those are the ones that I thought needed a little bit of explanation as far as the terminology, because some of those weird terminologies like the FPS style versus relative mode, that's the same thing. So we're going to hit the demo now. The video demo is about 6 minutes, and I'll just let the audio for it talk for itself. There are some caveats. There's not a huge amount of production value in this. We kind of came up with the idea of how to show this on the fly this morning. So it was done to get both perspectives, so you could see what is happening with me in the cockpit and with Brat up in the turret. I had her stream through Discord her screen over to me, and I had OBS set up to do a picture-in-picture. So you'll see a picture-in-picture down in the lower right corner is the small inset picture is my cockpit video, and the main screen is her cockpit video from the turret. So it's lower resolution because of Discord doesn't let you, is not going to let you pump HD or 4K without paying money for it. And the other thing is that, particularly when we demonstrate the gyro versus non-gyro mode, you'll see me move the nose of the jet, and there will be a small delay. That delay is because of the, I'm recording, and so when I move the jet on my screen, it's instantaneously recorded versus it's got to go through the internet, the results up on her screen and then stream back through Discord over the internet back to me before it displays on my second screen for OBS to capture it. So those are kind of the two main caveats. Is one's the resolution, and it'll be a little bit framey on the Discord stream from Brat. And when you see, particularly when we show the vehicle stabilized one, where her turret will move at the same time I move the nose of the jet, there's half a second, 3/4 of a second delay. So you'll see my jet nose move, and then you'll see the turret move with it, and that's because of that whole internet delay. So, okay, without further blah blah from yours truly, I'll alt tab over here and boop boop boop, and let this run. Go into options and show them the keyboards.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So to Options, Key Bindings, and Advanced Settings, and go. Oh, there's turrets. Go to turrets. Have a handy dandy little list of these shortcuts. If you are using a mouse that doesn't have a scroll wheel, then you can also control your velocity, the S and W key. A little introduction to turret to those who haven't been in for a while or at all. Starting with gyro mode. So I'm gonna start. I've got my target on the Kovalik sign. I'm gonna start shooting. This is in no gyro mode. Gyro mode is off.
Okay, gyro mode off. So it's ship stabilized. So as I move my nose left and right, it moves the turret as well, because the turret stays with the ship. All right, center.
Right, and then we gyro mode back on Alex. There we go.
All right, and then with her gyro mode, now it's space stabilized. I can go left and right all I want. As you can see, her turret counter rotates to zero out my move so that her pipper stays on target.
You want to pitch up and down too, and show how if you go down, my target staying straight on the line.
So yeah, it works in pitch. Obviously, it all works until you get to the limit of the turret as well. So once, even in gyro mode, where it's space stabilized, if I pitch up and she bottoms out at the bottom, then it'll start dragging her aim point up, whether she likes it or not.
And if you go down, the same thing.
Same thing happens. Go ahead. Ready?
Yep.
All right. So if I take her till she hits her vertical limit, and I keep rotating, then it'll drag her aim point with me.
Yep.
But within the limits of the turret, gyro mode is space stabilized.
All right. So that's gyro. We'll do the coupled or staggered versus unstaggered. So this is the default for the guns. Paired, as you can see, they're firing at the same time. You click V on your keyboard and you get staggered. See, alternates them. So you don't pack as much of a simultaneous punch, but it does keep a more steady stream of fire on the object. So the default, get myself right. The default is virtual joystick with ESP active, which means that as you move your mouse up or down, all the way up, so it's lovely. The vertical motion on your mouse controls vertical motion of your turret, obviously, and lateral motion controls lateral motion. The trick is, the farther your mouse is away from the center point, right here I'm centered and it's stable, and it's as you go further away, it goes faster. Whee! The other really important, this is the thing that I was having problems with before, which is the speed with which the turret moves. So right now, this is the default speed for the virtual joystick. And it can kind of slide around when you're on the far edge of it. So what you can do to control this is hit your left shift key, and then you can use either your scroll wheel, how fast you go, really. So you can really crank it down if you want to, it's barely moving at all, somewhere in the middle. Or you can use your WS keys to move it around if you're in the sub B on a mouse scroll wheel. Very simple once you know it's there, but it makes a really big difference how well you can control where you're putting. Main benefit to this is that it means that your mouse can stay on your head, it doesn't desk. But it is takes some getting used to. So if you want to go back to what it was, basic PS, where you put your mouse, that's where your guns are pointed. That is Q. And hitting Q turns on relative mode and does turn off the, what was it?
ESP.
Yeah, ESP, whatever. I can't remember what that stands for. Keep defaulting to extrasensory perception.
Enhanced stick precision.
Enhanced stick precision. There you go. So as you can see now, it's just going wherever I scroll my mouse. Let me get my speed back up. This is actually, yeah. So it stops when your mouse stops, basically. So the benefit to having the virtual joystick mode on is that you can keep it moving without dragging your hand across the keyboard. So it makes it a little bit easier, in theory, kind of track with moving objects in the dogfight, which we're not going to demonstrate right now, but it just is a very different sort of has different reflexes, so you'll need to build up new muscle memory. Anyhow, I think that's all the settings that we need to straight here. I want to go.
Okay. Boop. Oops, other way. All right. That wraps up a little bit of how-to with turrets and what the bespoke controls are for it. If you got any questions, then I'll tap dance here for a few seconds to beat the stream delay and answer any questions if you have them, and then we'll go in and go spawn some spacecraft that have turrets and go practice shooting at each other a little bit. Okay, so going once, going twice, going thrice. Alrighty. Yeah, the one a couple of things I remembered I wanted to mention from watching the video. In the options menu, it's titled speed limiter on one line, and then the next two lines it says velocity limiter. Those are the same thing in the context of what they're controlling. So it's that whole speed limiter. But they have them titled different, which is something of an oversight. I expect they will have that corrected at some point so that they have identical nomenclature in all places. I don't remember what the second one was. So,
Xnor, go ahead and ask your question in the Discord.
X? You got a question, X?
He's typing.
Huh. Is his mic not working?
For both joystick and...
I believe it
like
works for both.
Joystick?
Yeah,
I would assume it for both.
Yeah, I believe it does for both. If you're actually using an actual joystick, not the VJoy. If you're using an actual joystick and you have mapped turret controls to the joystick, I believe the speed/velocity limiter works there too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
My experience last time I messed around with it was that with the real joystick it didn't work.
Okay.
Well, I was working only with a mouse. I don't have a joystick, so I can't.
Yeah,
speak to that.
We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot tonight. I don't know if it.
I got it to work on my left joystick last week.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
And also the difference between the velocity and the speed seems to be, at least the way I found it when I bound it. One was kind of instantaneous, and the other one was more relative, where you move it and it stays. So.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand that distinction. Can you explain a little bit more?
In the controls, at least last time I looked, there the mappings, there was a velocity limiter and a speed limiter for the turrets, right? Which kind of makes no sense because speed and velocity are the same thing. But it's essentially more of a relative thing. Yeah, that's what he's pointing out there. It's relative versus absolute. So one of them, basically, if you map it to, I don't know, a stick button or a kind of a throttle, a slider, or something like that, will set it instantaneously. The other one will kind of push it left and right. So
Yeah,
what I found those settings where I put them when I was using a real joystick, the speed never changed. It didn't get faster or slower for me.
You had to turn it on.
Did you hit the shift key?
Did you hit left shift to turn it on?
Oh, I didn't know there was an on-off switch for it. So maybe
it's right there.
That's going
So as far as this menu is concerned, it's using speed and velocity synonymously. So
when I
defaults to disabled. So that bar down at the bottom of the screen, if it initially starts with two little, like a vertical caret or two dots, depending on how it looks. I think on which manufacturer. Yeah, it'll have an illuminated green line between those if you have it enabled, but it doesn't default. Yeah. It defaults off.
It will say speed limiter on or
active. It'll say limiter active.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an on-off switch for it, so that was probably what was going on.
Yeah, and we we fiddled around with this for a little bit, and by we I mean Brat with me, watching like the RCA dog. We fiddled around with that for a little bit, moving it, going, it's not really changing the speed. I cut that part out of the video, but it took us a little bit to go, oh, it defaults off. You got to turn it on, and we went, oh, but so one of the bad mech on CIG's part, and they'll fix it because I'm sure somebody will tell them about it. But the fact that when it's disabled, the little top and bottom carets on that velocity bar will slide back and right with your control, so you'll think you're controlling the speed.
Exactly.
But it doesn't really change anything because you didn't realize that it's off. When you hit left shift to enable it, now it adds like an illuminated green vertical bar between those two things, and now it says limiter activated down at the bottom underneath it, and now it actually does control speed. We fiddled with that for 5 minutes before we figured that out, and was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you had to leave the room, and I was sitting there basically twiddling my thumbs waiting for you to come back, and I was like, what happens if I hit the shift key? Oh, look, it actually does something now. But as to the question sort of speed limiter versus velocity limiter, I tested this, and the only difference in how it makes the adjustment is the mouse wheel is incremental, whereas the WS keys have a larger jump when you use them. It's a little bit more sort of
digital.
Yeah. But other than that, they seem to have exactly the same effect.
Yeah, they could both be called either speed limiter or velocity limiter.
Exactly.
Yeah, pick one.
Yep.
One's relative and one's kind of absolute.
Well, actually, the difference between speed and velocity is speed is the scalar portion of velocity. Velocity is a vector, which means it has both scale and direction. So it's not just 50 miles an hour. 50 miles an hour is a speed. 50 miles an hour north is a vector.
Yeah, so it really should both be speed limiter, because that's all it's doing is just changing the speed at which you rotate.
Right, exactly. So, okay. Any other questions? That was actually a really good discussion. Going once, going twice. All right. We'll call that good enough. That wraps up this installment of Academics of Foghorn. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. If there were any questions that I didn't answer, then please feel free to contact me via email, Discord, Spectrum, or of course comment section below for those that are watching this later, and I'll answer to the best of my ability as soon as I can, as soon as I can see it, basically. Members and visitors alike, please hit those follows and subscribes buttons as appropriate. Leave us a comment. We do read all the feedback and always trying to improve our content. You can find out more information about the Aurora Republic at our bespoke website aurorarepublic.space, or of course on our less bespoke website on Spectrum, robertspaceindustries.com/org/aurora-rep. I will see you next time. Foghorn signing off, wishing you a pleasant remainder of your morning, afternoon, and or evening, and thank you so very much for watching.